C stands for consider the woman's feelings. Guys, this one's for us. Feelings are important, and they are not a weakness. And I hate to break it to you, but you have them too. It's just that we tend to suppress them and pretend like they don't exist because we're guys. But feelings are an important part of a woman's life. God wired them perfectly, just the way they are, to be your helpmate. And we need to consider the woman's feelings because the woman's feelings is half of the marriage. And it's really important that we value them because God created them perfectly, just the way they are. And you will grow if you consider your wife's feelings. O.
The first O stands for only. Only your spouse can be your best friend of the opposite sex. We have observed this healthy boundary in other marriages, and we've also observed this healthy boundary being violated in other marriages, and it turned into disasters because of it. What we mean by this is that of all the females on the face of the planet that Brent is friends with, I'm the best friend of all of those. His best friend cannot be a girl unless it's me. My best friend cannot be a guy unless it's him. And we have just found that it helps dispel things like jealousy, trust. Jealousy is something you never want. Trust is something you need. And it's just a good basic rule to have in any marriage relationship.
And I'll even go on as far to say, communication is great. I'd go as far to say that if you communicate better with any other woman than you do your wife, you're off track. And I want to educate you in something else because I think this is important that you know about me as your pastor. I will never meet with a woman by myself. It's just a rule I put in my life and put in place. If a woman needed a ride somewhere, I would call somebody else to get them a ride. No offense to you, but I just want you to know that about me. Because it's important that we never put ourselves in a situation where we could compromise the most important relationship that we've ever been given. And I think that's important for all of us to think about. The world sets a standard that says, go ahead, have any relationship you want and post it all over Facebook. She's too important to do that. And we have to make sure that we protect our spouse in those types of relationships. M, everybody say it with me, means mark your calendar. Date night. Paying for a date every other week is cheaper than a divorce. I'm serious. And the other thing that you need to realize is the 216 principle. Your kids will only be in your house for 216 months. Hopefully. Often what happens in marriage is the kids become the CEO of the home. And the marriage becomes compromised, and then the kids leave, and you say, well, what happened to my marriage? And here's a reality. Statistics say that your kids' marriage will only be as good as your marriage. Which that's a big ouch. When you think about the significance, because that's our opportunity to model to our kids what it means to have a God-centered marriage and how to be able to see the power of Christ work in that relationship so that when they leave the home, now ultimately Christ is responsible, and in their relationship with Christ, that's the responsibility of their marriage. And God can redeem any marriage. But it's our responsibility to do our very best to model a healthy, Christ-centered relationship to our kids. And this is really important that we've worked through. There are times in my life where we have to stop and say, quit saying yes to good things. So my ministry schedule, I can say, okay, I'm going to say yes to all these great ministry things, right? But if they trump my marriage relationship, then I'm giving up the best thing for something that's just good. And so she always has to come first, and there are times in our life where we have to stop and we have to say, let's get the calendar out and let's actually write down what night is our date night. You got to fight for it. You got to preserve it. You got to schedule it. And nothing else can trump it. It's important that we do that and that we value the relationship by scheduling it. And the other thing that I'd say is, when it comes to marking your calendar for some time, do it without your kids. I promise that if you drop your kids off at the babysitter's and they are screaming bloody murder, they'll get used to it.
We've done it.
You have to do that. I also want you to know something, because I think this is a great opportunity to say it. Kids can become the CEO of our life. Parents, I want you to know something else. We do our best to create safe environments for your kids for nursery and toddler town. Use it. If you drop your kids off and they cry, leave them. We will take care of them. If they cry over 10 minutes, we'll come and get you. But we have to train our kids to thrive in the independence that God put in their life and teach them so that we can come and we can worship with our spouse. It's really important that we mark it and that we schedule it and we preserve it. U, or M, the next M.
The next M is make. Make Christ your source of your self-esteem. So the next logical thing is that your spouse is not your source of your self-esteem. If you're a woman, your identity is not wrapped up in whether you have a guy or not. If you're a guy, your identity is not wrapped up in whether you have a girlfriend or who your wife is. Your spouse, Brent, as great as he is not my God, and he is not my Savior. My relationship with Christ is the most important relationship in my life, and my source of identity does not come from Brent. I think as women, sometimes we expect God-like traits to come from our men. I think a big one would be like omnipotence. Like we expect them to be able to read our minds, like God can read our minds. All right? He's just a guy. He's not God. If I've got my arms full and there's a diaper bag on the floor, I don't get frustrated. I can't get frustrated and go, ugh. He should be able to understand that my arms are full and we need the diaper bag and we have to get out and he needs to pick it up and help me. I'm not going to waste my time fretting about all that stuff, being frustrated with him that he can't read my mind. I just need to tell him, could you pick up the diaper bag, please? And he does. And it's all solved. And I saved myself all that fret and frustration. Or I don't spend my time leaving hints. Oh, my arms are so full. Oh, this is heavy. Expecting them to pick up on all this stuff. You know, he's not Sherlock Holmes or anything like that. Just tell him what you need. If you have a bad day and you need him to hold you, don't come in and lay all the hints. Just tell him, I've had a bad day and I really just need you to hold me for a while. And then he does it. And I get what he needs and he's like, yeah, I gave her what she needs. I did a good job. And he did. So I think sometimes we expect our spouses to have God things that only belong to God. And your relationship your need for all of those God-like things needs to come from God directly. Don't expect your husband or your wife to fill in those God-like voids in your life. Those are for God. And the better your relationship with God, then the better spouse you're going to be anyway.
And I think it's good because you know what? Women have feelings. God made them perfectly. God made guys the way he made guys too. And seriously, I appreciate the fact that she would just tell me that she needs something. I don't get it. I don't get that you had a bad day and that you need me just to hold you for 10 minutes. I'm a guy. But her telling me that's all she needs to do because I love her. And I value my relationship with her and I want to take care of her. But sometimes I think that we've grown in this. Yeah. But sometimes there's times where it's just, I should figure it out. But the reality is I'm not wired to figure it out because I'm a guy. And I think this is why communication is so incredible in our marriage, because it leads us to great places.